presentation of Fox Sports.
We are Fox Sports. We are LA.
Harold's enjoyed a nice off day yesterday. They traveled to Houston, Texas tonight from Minute Maid Park. We begin a 6-game road trip. It's the first of 3 tonight against the Houston Astros. Hi, everybody, from inside Minute Maid Park. We welcome you back to Angels Baseball here on Fox Sports West, along with Mark Gubaza. I'm Victor Rojas. Now, the Angels, of course, are coming off a fantastic homestand in which they went 6-0, just the 6th time in franchise history they've swept a homestand.
Yeah, Victor, they did everything well. They defended well, they pitched very well, and they hit the baseball extremely well. When you think about it, what they did in that 6-game win streak, outscored their opponents by 24 runs. 5 of the 6 games, they had 7 or more runs scored. They, like I mentioned, they pitched very well, too, including Matt Shoemaker, who threw his first career shutout during that homestand. Pitch well, defend well, and then, of course, swing the bats well here in this ballpark. It should bode well.
Yeah, Matt Shoemaker's on the mound for the Angels tonight. Let's talk a little bit about the Angels against the Houston Astros. Has not been pretty, 1-8 this year.
That's why I said it should bode well. I mean, when you think about it, this club has really struggled against the Astros. They won the first game of the season against them, then 8 straight losses. They have been out-homered 29-15 by the Astros. When you think about it, 5-14 in the last 19 games in Houston, but it's a whole different team. The way the attitude in the dugout has been, the way they've been swinging the bats. Albert Pujols with great career numbers against the Astros. He needs to swing the bat. Matt Shoemaker needs to deal on the mound.
He's going to have to step up. He had a fantastic game the last time out. When we return to Minute Maid Park, we're going to talk about a couple of potential MVP candidates. Park, game one of a three-game set against the Houston Astros. And in this series, you get a chance to watch two very talented players, a couple of MVP candidates, Scooby.
Sometimes even the best athletes have a little mishap on occasion. And take a look at our tools of the trade, brought to you by Ram Trucks. Jose Altuve was going for a triple here, looking to be able to complete the cycle. But down goes Altuve at second base, still able to smile. Then Mike Trout thinking about a triple two, and then down goes Trout. As he goes back, he was teasing Altuve about that a little earlier in the day. The two of them, the same thing, falling at second base. There is a danger at second base every once in a while.
I could have sworn I saw Altuve trying to trip Trout. I'm blaming it on Jose. We're just about ready for baseball here in Houston. Sit back, relax. Lineups and first pitch when we return. Series against the Houston Astros. The Angels fourth in the American League West, 11.5 games back of the division-leading Texas Rangers. Texas kicking off a three-game series in Kansas City this weekend. The Astros returned home where they've played very good baseball. Well, they've played very good baseball pretty much since the third week of May. Best record in baseball since May 23rd at 34-16, Gooby. And out of that, 18-6 here in this ballpark.
Yeah, they are very good in this ballpark. Reason why they hit it, they rely on the home run ball. Their work counts very well. They're not afraid to strike out. As long as they get a pitch, they can drive. And that's why they've been so successful in this ballpark.
Astros have taken the field, so we will check out the Angels lineup at 43-52. It'll be Yunel Escobar leading things off and playing third base. Cole Calhoun in right, Mike Trout in center field. Albert Pujols has been on a tear, 579 career home runs. And he has hit the ball well against the Astros throughout his career. He's the DH and cleanup hitter. Daniel Nava left. Andrelton Simmons also on a tear of late. He's the shortstop. G-Man Choi at first. Jeff Bandy behind the plate. And tonight, Gregorio Petit gets the start at second base, and he will bat ninth as they take on a 22-year-old right-hander, native of Tampa, Florida. Second time this year the Angels have faced him. It's Lance McCullers Jr.
And McCullers does have a very good fastball. It's 92 to 96 range. A very good curveball, throwing more of those this year, and a changeup. But my go-tos to be successful against McCullers is think early. He will throw a lot more fastballs early in the count. That's the one you have to capitalize against and get out of that comfort zone. He's a guy that's a high-energy guy. Step out on occasion, bunt, make him field his position, get him a little bit off the edge, because he's a guy, when he's on a roll, very difficult to hit.
Check out the Angels, or pardon me, the Astros defensively tonight. Rasmus, Gomez, Springer in the outfield from left to right. Valbuena, Correa, Altuve, and Gonzalez from third to first, and Castro behind the plate.
And a very good fielding team, this Astro club, and Gonzalez over at first base has been very good. He's played a number of different positions. With 42 games at first base, he's played second, he's played short, third, and left field. He never played first base before this season, but he's been playing it very, very well for us, and he's also turned in 41 double plays.
Angels, as we mentioned, 1-8 against the Astros, 0-3 here in this ballpark. Second visit of the season to Minute Maid. They will come back here as part of the last road trip of the regular season. That'll be a series, a 4-game set over a weekend. Last road trip that includes a visit to Arlington as well, third week of September. First one tonight is up and in on Yunel Escobar. Escobar, 317 average, 21 doubles, a triple, 3 home runs, 30 runs batted in. Had a multi-hit game on Wednesday. 2 for 3 overall. We'll look at his strike. Escobar still in the top 10 as far as batting average is concerned. Right now it's Jose Altuve leading Major League Baseball with that 357 average. This is punch to right. Jam shot to right. It's his leadoff single for Escobar.
Yeah, it's amazing the numbers against McCullers on a 1-1 count so far this year. 424. Another base hit there on that one. And a Hyundai key for this game for the Angels to be successful against McCullers and the Astros. Jake Owens, the one that got away. Well, you can't allow that fastball to get away from you. He will throw him, like I said, early in counts. When you have to deal with his breaking ball, it's a very difficult task to square that one up. He throws nearly 50% of his pitches are curveballs at 49%. So jump on the fastball and get it early.
Making his 12th start of the season, 4-4 and a 3.61 ERA. Shift on with Calhoun at the plate. Cole takes upstairs. 284 batting average for Cole. 10 home runs and 49 runs batted in. Houston had the day off yesterday. They were coming off a road trip, which they split 3-3. McCullers in his last time out ended up taking a loss, a tough one, 5 1/3. Gave up just 1 earned run. It's a bouncer toward first and off the glove of Gonzalez. Boy, that ball trickling down the right field line almost ate up Gonzalez, and it stayed fair down the right field line. Just got him in the face.
And then right down that line, just by him, that last quick hop, it was pretty close to being a fair ball. And right there you can see it's just foul.
That took a bounce back toward the field of play.
But after it already passed the base, though.
Hunter Wendelstedt, the first base umpire, making the call. So 1 ball, 1 strike on Calhoun. Leadoff single for Escobar. He's at first. 1 ball, 2 strikes.
One thing about McCullers, he's really negates a running game against him. He's not allowed a stolen base against him this season so far. 2 guys have been caught trying to steal. This 3 stolen bases in 6 attempts against him in his career. So very quick to the plate for a right-handed pitcher.
He'll pick up some strikeouts. Has 80, 62 1/3. He leads the American League. 11.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. Valbuena now towards the shortstop position. That's down at it. It's blocked by Castro, and Escobar will stay at first.
I don't know how that ball didn't hit Calhoun in the foot. Cole wasn't trying to move out of the way either. Very, very close. Well, last year, McCullers threw about 36% of his pitches were curveballs. This year, 49%. They're throwing a lot more curveballs this year.
This is hit toward second base, and with the shift on, it'll sneak out to right center. It's a base hit, and Escobar ends up at third base. So back-to-back singles to start the game, and travel back with a couple of men on.
Yeah, we were talking about in that series versus the Rangers. The Rangers and the Angels were at the top 5 as far as going first to third on singles. Able to do so right here as Cole Calhoun stays back on that curveball and finds the hole between the shortstop and second baseman with the shift on. As Escobar slides in, going first to third on a single. It's one thing the Astros do a lot of, shifting. 1,255 shifts so far, number 1 by far in baseball.
John hitting .320, 19 home runs, 62 runs batted in. We'll take a fastball for a strike. It's an interesting number that you bring up, the 1,200 plus shifts for the Astros. How many have actually worked?
They're number 1 in fielding, though, but also that could be a situation where they're not in their normal position to be able to field those ground balls. It could have been outs instead of hits.
Check swing. He went around. Trout asked for the appeal. Hunter Wendelstedt obliged. 0-2.
See if he did indeed go. Got the foot down. Crossed the plate, no doubt.
Altuve shading toward the middle. Big hole on the right side of the infield. Gonzalez holding Calhoun at first. Escobar over at third. Hard breaking ball. Calhoun takes off, and he's going to get in there. Escobar almost came down the line. So Cole will advance.
Good read there by Cole. Good secondary lead. Saw that ball not that far away from Castro, but with that quick step he took because he was ready to go, anticipating a curveball in the dirt, especially ahead of the count. He's able to advance into scoring position himself.
They call it a stolen base for Cole. Third of the year. Second and third. Nobody out. 1-2 count on Trout. Time called, and looked like Castro was going to go out, but changed his mind. And Trout goes down swinging on the breaking ball. 1 away.
That hard breaking ball. Talked about trying to stay out of those counts in which he's able to throw that. Even with the numbers that Trout has as far as behind the counts, very difficult to make contact with that hard breaking ball from McCullers. They are still big fans of Albert Pujols here at Minute Maid Park.
Albert at .255 with 19 home runs, 72 runs batted in. 3 infielders on the left side. And we'll get a breaking ball first pitch. Check swing. Did not go. Albert with 11 doubles to go with those 19 home runs. 579 in his career. 4 shy of tying his former teammate Mark McGwire for 10th all time. A little chopper up the third base line. Valbuena's got it. He's coming home. And they get Escobar for the out. 2 down.
Smart play by Valbuena. Getting that baseball right there. No, he's got a pretty good path to throw to the plate. Even a lot of times early on, you'll take that out at first base He knows he has an opportunity, especially because he has that strong throwing arm. But get that in quickly to Castro, who applies the tag. Escobar. That's going to take a base hit here by Nava to be able to score a run after having second and third and no outs. With your top hitters coming up, and so far McCullers has made some good pitches.
Daniel Nava comes in batting .240 with 4 doubles, a home run and 12 runs batted in. Castro not very happy there. I wonder if he got crossed
up. Yeah, it looked
up.
like he was.
At least he got crossed up the right way. The breaking ball instead of a fastball. Cole standing at second and Pujols at first. Nava pops it up. Shallow left. Correa going out. Rasmus coming in. And it's Correa making the catch, and the Angels wasted a golden opportunity to strike early. Well, at the bottom of the first, scoreless. Let's check out A.J. Hinch's lineup for the Houston Astros, game number 96 for the Astros. George Springer will lead things off and play right field. Marwin Gonzalez at first. Jose Altuve at second. Carlos Correa, the cleanup hitter, at short. Luis Valbuena at third. Colby Rasmussen left. Carlos Gomez in center field. Preston Tucker called up today. He's in that DH spot batting eighth. And Jason Castro batting ninth, doing the catching as they take on Matt Shoemaker. 19th start of the season. Of course, he's coming off that complete game shutout. 5th win of the season. He has an ERA of 4.08.
He's thrown so well in his last 11 starts. ERA well under 3. But my go-tos for Shoemaker to be successful: strikes in good places. That means hitting those lower part of the zone and downward split. That downward action on a split finger fastball. You either get a ground ball out or a swing and miss.
Springer swinging first pitch. Skies one on the right side. Gregorio Petit, the infield dirt, puts it away for the first out. That's how the Angels stack up defensively tonight. Daniel Nava left. Mike Trout at center. Cole Calhoun at right. The infield is Yunel Escobar and Andrelton Simmons on the left side. Gregorio Petit, G-Man Choi on the right. Jeff Andy once again behind the plate.
And Andrelton Simmons, who's been so good since that All-Star break, has been great all season long, but no errors in his last 22 chances since the All-Star break. 2 errors that last game versus the Astros back on June 29th, but he has had tremendous coverage. We know how strong that throwing arm is for Andrelton Simmons.
Marwin Gonzalez, switch hitting infielder, playing a lot of first base. Takes a strike. 254 batting average. 8 home runs and 26 RBIs. 249 from this side of the plate this season. Down and away. Gonzalez playing in his 52nd game at first base this year. Came up as a shortstop, and he slices this one through the left side with the shift on. That would have been right at the shortstop, Andrelton Simmons, but goes out to left field to Daniel Nava. It's a one-out single.
He kind of went inside out on that fastball in either part of the plate and shot it through the hole with that shortstop position that was vacated with the shift on.
Here's Jose Altuve. 1 out, 1 on. Leads the world in hitting at .357. 15 home runs, 54 runs batted in. 26 doubles and 3 triples. Oh, by the way, he's hitting .500 against the Angels this year. 18 for 36.
.363 overall in his career. But he has rolled into 11 double plays. Shoemaker has had 4 double plays turned behind him this season.
Shoemaker making his 4th start of the season against the Astros. 1-1, 2.08 ERA, 24 strikeouts, and 21 2/3 innings. One ball, 1 strike.
Jet Bandy has thrown out 41% of would-be base stealers this year. 13 stolen bases in 22 attempts against them. This Astro club will try to steal a lot of bases. They have 74 as a team this season.
That puts him 6th best in the American League. Check in on him. Altuve leads the way with 25. No doubt having an MVP caliber type season. .133 hits on the year. Also leads baseball. Got 12 hits in his last 4 games. 1-1. He drives this one out toward right center field. Long run for Trout. Still racing over. He'll make the catch. Gonzalez raced around second, retouches, and heads back to first.
What a play by Trout. We talked about him and Altuve in the pregame show. Not only do they swing the bat well, but they can make a difference with the glove also. And that's an outstanding play by Trout. How far he's got to go to track that one down, and that ball was tailing away from him. Almost outran it with his speed, but still able to track it down and get it in quickly. What a play by Trout.
Appreciate good baseball here, especially since they've got a guy like Altuve and they've got Springer, Correa in the lineup. But you hear the oohs and ahs after the catch. And some applause in the outfield for Trout making that play. 2 outs.
Very spacious center field here at Minute Maid Park.
Carlos Correa, the shortstop, at the plate. .266 average. Team leader in RBIs was 62. He's hit the Angels well this season. Himself a .400 batting average. 12 for 30 with 4 home runs. 18 runs batted in. Gonzalez started to go and stopped. Cheat a little bit over at first.
Shoemaker with 1 pickoff this year has allowed 9 stolen bases in 11 attempts, 5 career pickoffs. His best move is the quick move over at first, not when he holds on to the baseball. The quick move, fire over there to first base.
0-2 count.
Good splitter there from Shoemaker. You notice if you're at home, you watch Matt Shoemaker get in there with set position in the stretch position. There's always a lot of movement with the foot. He does it every time until he comes to that complete set. So you think, oh, is it a balk because of all that movement in the front leg? But he's not into a complete set until he stops. And that's why it's never been called a balk against Shoe. So that movement right there brings it back until he finally gets in a set position.
Has that always been part of the rules? I always remember the rules being pretty adamant as you're becoming set. You just got to come set.
Come set. That's what, yeah. You see that with a number of different pitchers of late doing the same type of thing where there's movement in the foot. You got to get to that position and boom, stop.
I guess really it's because the hands are still moving downward to the set position.
When we were watching James Shields, the whole process he goes through with that. He dips down, then gets back, and he goes up high with his hands before he finally gets into his set position out of the stretch.
Scoreless here in the first. The Angels had runners at second and third with nobody out. Did not score. Astros with a man at first and 2 outs here in the bottom of the inning. Good crowd on this Friday night. Anyway, fedoras tonight. Correa takes low.
That's a pretty good pitch. I got a lot of the strike zone. And he's telling Mike Scioscia he thought Trip Gibson saying that ball was low. You see in our Fox tracks, that's the lower part of the strike zone though.
So full count, and Gonzalez will get a head start from first. Gonzalez goes 3-2's fouled back. We'll reset. Just a .209 batting average with a 3-2 count this year for Correa. Foul on the play.
Remember we saw him here earlier in the season where he was able to drive that ball. If it's elevated out over the plate, he can drive the ball very well to right center field. But right now with a high fastball, he fouled it. He was a little bit late. I think you can go right back now with a split finger fastball down outer part of the plate and down, or even try to slide her down and away.
There's a called strike 3. Correa knew it. I think he was looking for the off-speed stuff. First strikeout of the night for Shoemaker. We'll head to the second, scoreless. Return home to take on the Red Sox, and on Sunday, July 31st, it's a 12:35 start. Fans in attendance will receive a one-of-a-kind umbrella hat courtesy of Waba Grill while supplies last. Go to angels.com/promotions for ticket information. It's a perfect giveaway for a day game.
Yes, it is.
Simmons, Choi, and Bandy for the Halos here in the second. No score. Andrelton hitting .271 with a home run. 19 runs batted in. Behind the count at 0-2.
And it's never a good position to be behind the count against McCullers, so we'll throw that curveball now. And his velocity on his fastball down a little bit from last year, average fastball. There's his curveball. Last year's average fastball, 94.5 miles per hour. This year, 93.6.
Like he just keeps throwing that breaking ball to you, especially against a right-handed batter.
And when you mentioned about how many strikeouts he gets per 9 innings, that's part of the reason why when he gets a strike on a hitter, he's thinking in terms of punch out. So he's going to throw that curveball harder and then harder and then harder. Very rarely is it in the strike zone.
Goes fastball upstairs, full count. Three-two, lifted foul. Andrelton in the month of July, a .397 batting average. 6 doubles, a triple, 8 runs batted in. He lines this one up the middle, a base hit. You know, I was having this conversation this afternoon with Roger Lodge. You know what I said? He asked me about Simmons, and all I said was he's not afraid to go deeper in the counts, whereas earlier this year he's a notorious first ball swinger, but he hasn't been afraid lately to kind of get deeper in the counts.
You're exactly right on that. And in the driver's seat, which is brought to you by IKEA, will explain that exactly when you're talking about the top averages in the majors since June 23rd. You get Altuve at the top, Josh Donaldson followed by Trout and Simmons. You're right. He's allowing the baseball to get deeper into the strike zone. He's allowing the pitch count during an at bat get a little bit deeper, not just trying to jump on a fastball every time. The first 2 pitches he took in this sequence, fastballs, took it for strikes, worked the count back to a full count, then lined it up the middle.
And then the other thing too, Gooby, I don't know if you've witnessed it as well, but he's not necessarily just a straight pull hitter. He's going the other way. He's not afraid to let the ball travel a little deeper and punch it to right.
Exactly.
G-Man Choi with a 1-ball, 1-strike count. 171 batting average, couple of doubles, a home run, and 2 runs batted in.
Yeah, I've talked to Dave Hansen and Paul Sorrento, and what they've tried to do with Simmons over the last few months, it is trying to think in terms of shorten up your swing. A lot of times he gets a little bit long on a swing. Now he's getting shorter through the baseball, used in the middle of the field.
One-two to Choi. Backdoor breaking ball misses. Moves up to count.
His curveball, he throws that pretty hard. It's around 84, 85 miles an hour. It's almost as hard as most pitchers' sliders are.
That's a backdoor. He got off the plate, but he gets the call. 1 out. Second strikeout.
That's an unhittable pitch. You're at the mercy of the home plate umpire. You're throwing a curveball, starts on the outside part of the plate, just a little bit off the corner. There's nothing you could do except for just to try to foul that one off. And that wouldn't even be easy to do.
Trip Gibson calling the balls and strikes tonight. Hunter Wendelstedt at first base. Jerry Lane, the crew chief, at second. And Scott Berry at third. One out, one on. Jet Bandy coming up. Jet had an 0-for-3 game Wednesday. 7-4 win over the Rangers to finish off the series sweep. Homestand sweep.
Boy, a lot of room on that right side of the infield to put a hit and run on for a guy that doesn't give up many stolen bases, so hit and run might be your better choice.
And he gets jammed, rolls one over to Correa. He'll flip it down to me. And it's an inning-ending 6-4-3 double play. Right at the bottom of the second, scoreless. Strikeout, one hit allowed for Matt Shoemaker in that first inning. He'll face Valbuena, Rasmus, and Gomez here in the second for the Astros. Taylor's trying to keep it rolling on this road trip as Jeff Bandy sails the throw down to second base way into center field. Wasn't even close. Just trying to keep Mike Trout loose.
Yeah, exactly.
But this next 10 games, obviously a really good stretch, tough stretch of baseball. 3 here. 3 in Kansas City, and then Angels return home for 7, but the first 4 against the Boston Red Sox.
Well, when you think about it, a 6-game homestand against the White Sox, who had been playing pretty good baseball themselves, and in the first place Rangers. And another test here, especially here in this ballpark, and then on over to Kansas City. Also, both teams play extremely well at home.
Luis Valbuena, the third baseman, hitting .257, 12 home runs. 9 runs batted in, showing bunt. We've seen him do that before, especially with the shift on and Escobar playing back. Escobar stays on the infield dirt about halfway. I mean, why not? If you're going to give it to him, I'm Valbuena. I'll take advantage of it.
But as a pitcher, you like that because you want to field your position anyhow. I think in terms, as soon as he has that bat at that angle, you start working your way towards the third base side with the pitching mound.
Chase a high fastball. 2 balls, 1 strike. The thing with the shift on in that situation, you're not trying to really deaden the baseball down the line. You can just punch it toward the base. Kind of keep it. All you got to do is get it past the mound, if you will. Virtually impossible for any third baseman at that position to come over and make a play.
Seems like Shoemaker's rushing his throw there to be able to get in position to field that baseball just in case he does bunt down the line.
kind of counterproductive to keep pitching him away too, are you not? You're playing the shift, but you want to pitch him in. I know he's a dangerous hitter in certain spots.
I think you go middle down with your split finger fastball more often.
This one's popped up, foul and out of play.
That was pretty much middle part of the plate. Again, when we talk about defensive shifts, you have to have the pitcher with the right mindset to pitch into those shifts. And if you're not that type of pitcher that can consistently stay inside against a left-handed batter, you just go back to your strengths.
Chopper right side into the shift.
That's that splitter down.
One away.
Looked like Bandy originally put the fastball sign away, and then Shoemaker shook it off to a split finger fastball, gets a ground ball out with it.
Base is clear for Colby Rasmus, the left fielder. .232 average for Rasmus. 11 home runs and 43 runs batted in. He gets jammed and pops it up. Left side, Simmons. Escobar. Angelton will call off Cunell. 2 down.
Oh, that's a shocker.
Yep. That's the first day in spring training meeting. The infield meeting. Guys, this is Angelton Simmons. If he calls for it, just get out of the way.
He's having some fun with Escobar.
Escobar must be trash talking him a little bit.
Oh, yeah. Probably say, next time I'm going to box you out. It's like going for a rebound.
Carlos Gomez takes down and away. The center fielder, 208 with 5 home runs and 27 runs batted in.
And one thing Gomez has hit well this year. He has struggled as far as batting average. It's been fastball, so he's had a tough time with off-speed pitches. A 170 batting average versus off-speed, which is the 4th worst in baseball, but he's in a fastball count now, though.
Three balls, no strikes. Almost spent some time on the disabled list earlier this year, and that ball hits him in the shoulder. A 3-0 pitch. Carlos will take his base.
Once that fastball gets him right on the letter, right on the number 3, I should say, of the back.
3rd hit batter for Shoemaker this year. So 2 outs and a man at first. Preston Tucker, the DH, called back up today. 34th game and a pickoff attempt. The ball gets away, so Gomez will take second, and he will stay right there. Petit got to that baseball quickly.
And the best move that Shoemaker has is that quick one before he really gets in that set position. Steps over and fires a low throw at the runner. Gets away from Choi and down the line for our own Shoemaker.
Tucker hitting 176 on the season through 33 games. A lot of power in his bat. Florida Gator. 301 at AAA Fresno. This year with 6 doubles, 3 home runs, and 5 runs batted in. Off speed, popped him up. Escobar drifting into foul territory will make the call and the catch, and the inning comes to an end. We'll head to the third with no score. Matt Shoemaker, 1 strikeout, 1 hit, 1 hit batter. The score is the Angels end up 9-1-2. Petit, Escobar, and Calhoun. The opening game of a 3-game set. Gregorio getting the start tonight at second base. 281 with a couple of home runs and 15 runs batted in. Got the start there in game 2 Tuesday against Texas. We're going 1 for 4. McCullers delivers a strike.
Kind of looked like Gregorio took a little peek down to see where Balbuena was playing at third base. Maybe not this at bat, but in the bat down the road, he may try to do a little bunt down that third baseline action.
Ball and 2 strikes. McCullers with a couple of strikeouts. 3 hits allowed. As a matter of fact, the Angels got their first 2 on and got them into scoring position, but could not score in the first. It's 2 balls, 2 strikes. The bouncer toward third. Balbuena has to come in. Weird hop and still makes the throw on the out. Boy, from here it looked like Petit got there, but that ball checked left away from Balbuena. He still was able to barehead it.
That's an outstanding play by Balbuena and by the stretch by Gonzalez at first base. He's got a redirect on that different spin on the baseball, the long throw, and it's a real close play, but he got him.
Yep, sure did.
A lot of times when you use the bare hand, it's a slow roller. That still had a little bit onto that baseball. Great play by both. They lead the American League as far as fielding percentage.
Top of the order, Yunel Escobar. He's 1 for 1 as he punched a single to right his first time up. Two hopper to Correa. 2 down. Mentioned the Red Sox are coming to town. Athletics will follow that. And on Tuesday, August 2nd, fans in attendance will receive an Angels soccer scarf courtesy of Microsemi. While supplies last, visit angels.com/promotions to get your tickets.
Well, so far in this game, McCullers has gotten 5 outs via the ground ball. He's very difficult to square up and hit out of the ballpark. He's only allowed 2 home runs this season, one to Mark Trumbo, the other to Stephen Vogt. So difficult to score runs via the long ball. You have to be aggressive, especially like we saw in the first inning, going first and third on the single by Cole Calhoun after Escobar singled.
6th start of his young career against the Angels, 1-1 with a 2.35 ERA. Throughout his brief career, he's pitched very well in this ballpark, 7-3 with a 2.16.
Amazing the numbers ERA-wise, McCullers, Keuchel, McHugh in this ballpark. I mean, this is definitely a hitter's ballpark. Not like the old Astrodome, where that was a pitcher's yard.
Drops a breaking ball in there. Colors a supplemental first-round pick in 2012 at a high school in Tampa. He walked the first free pass of the evening. Issued by McCullers. Give Trout an opportunity back here with a man on. Trout struck out in the first. Hard breaking ball from McCullers. He got him.
Would not be surprised if Trout swinging at first pitch. He took the first pitch, his first at bat against McCullers.
It's back-to-back at bats. First pitch fastball. Pops out of the glove. Calhoun will head to second. Overthrown fastball there from McCullers.
He had the pitch before at 97. That high fastball, another 97-mile-an-hour fastball. And once again, Calhoun able to advance in his scoring position on a wide throw from McCullers. Well, that could be called a pass ball, though. It went off the glove, though, of Castro.
They are calling it a pass ball. Job on the 2-1 count. Halos over 3 with men in scoring position tonight. Those 3 at bats coming in the first. Get an opportunity here in the third now with 2 outs. A walk, a pass ball. Trout cuts through the breaking ball.
A pretty good swing at that breaking ball in the inner half of the plate. And Trout has been very good this season versus breaking balls. 354 batting average, or 345 batting average on breaking balls this year, which leads the majors in that category.
Full count.
Albert Pujols on deck, 4 for 12 in his career versus McCullers. Not be surprised if McCullers throws a breaking ball here on the 3-2 count, though.
Here's the 3-2, and it's a breaking ball. Trout goes down swinging for the second time tonight. It's a third strikeout for McCullers. And the Angels leave a man in scoring position. We're scoreless as we head to the bottom of the third. We shocked the undefeated Ronda Rousey will face kickboxing legend Valentina Shevchenko. Coverage of Fox UFC Fight Night begins tomorrow, 3 p.m. Pacific, only on Fox. 9-1-2 coming up for Houston here in the bottom of the third. We're still scoreless. Halos with 3 hits. The Astros with 1. That was Marwin Gonzalez with a 1-out single in the first. It'll be Castro, Springer, and Gonzalez here in the third against Matt Shoemaker. Jason Castro, the catcher, hitting .219 with 6 home runs and 22 runs batted in. 12 doubles, 3 triples so far this year. Stanford product. Good off-speed pitch, even the count of 1 ball, 1 strike. One and 2. 3 triples for a catcher.
It's good. Quick.
Spacious outfield here. Just hit it out that way.
Exactly.
See Towles Hill in center field. That was going to be removed last year after the season, but was to get to it this year. They made the postseason. Kind of changed the schedule. That is just low.
That's a pretty good pitch. That's a pretty good pitch. It's a pretty good take.
Two. Down goes Castro. 1 away.
A nasty split again from Shoemaker. Boy, he's been on some kind of roll with this, especially with this pitch right here. Running down and away. Starts at the knees, ends up in the dirt. Same arm angle as his fastball. Well, that strikeout to walk ratio this year is unbelievable. 5-1, 7th best ratio in baseball for major league pitchers. I mean, that's outstanding. Where he was in the beginning of the season as compared to where he is now, it's a remarkable change.
Springer pops it up. Ji-Man Choi will put it away. Springer had no idea where that baseball was at.
Well, he's up there hacking at the first pitch. We know that very well. 42% of the time he's swinging at the first pitch. He's done it twice already.
Let's get back to Shoemaker and the numbers that he has put up. The difference from earlier this year compared to the last couple of months for him. And with the non-waiver trade deadline coming up, you would imagine the lack of pitching and the necessity for pitching for teams that are contending. But I'm sure there's some teams that are interested in looking at Matt Shoemaker. It's tough to argue with what he's done of late.
No doubt. I mean, you look at the walks, strikeout, the first 6 compared to now. It's barely over a 1-to-1 ratio. Now 5-to-1 ratio. Generally for a pitcher, 2-to-1, maybe 3-to-1's a very good season, but 5-to-1. 5 strikeouts per every walk for Shoemaker.
Drag bunt, that ball hit him, he should be out. And sure enough, he is. Ball made contact with the body outside the batter's box. No plate umpire Trip Gibson makes the call immediately.
Right there, he's out of the batter's box.
1-2-3 inning for Matt Shoemaker. We'll head to the 4th, still with no score. Albert Pujols to lead things off for the Angels here in the 4th. Still scoreless. Lance McCullers with 3 strikeouts, 1 walk. 3 hits allowed, and Albert takes upstairs. Pujols reached on a fielder's choice in the 1st. So he's 0 for 1. 3 infielders on the left side with Pujols at the plate. Breaking ball is in there. 1 ball, 1 strike. Halo's out on the road this year. A 21-26 record. With that 6-game homestand sweep. Just concluded, now 22-26 at home.
Good pitch now for Albert. The drive. McCullers throws about right now so far this year 63% of the time he'll throw a fastball behind in the count to a right-handed batter.
Bouncer foul.
We got one there. Pretty good zone for Albert to drive, and just got on top of that baseball and pulled it foul.
got a piece of it. Keeps that bat alive. Still with 2 balls, 2 strikes. The spin rate, the average spin rate on the breaking ball from the colors over 3,000 RPMs. There's the league average at around 2,400.
That's why you attack the fastball.
There's that breaking ball. Pujols goes down swinging for the first down here in the 4th.
See how sharp this breaking ball is. Not the average 12-6 break on a curveball. He hides the baseball well, and you can see that tight rotation of the curveball to get a swing and miss.
Puts a lot of torque into that shoulder, throwing that breaking ball as hard as he does.
Yeah, especially when you overthrow or really throw your curveball or slider really hard like that, you're eventually, you better make sure the lower part of your body is strong to sustain that shoulder and elbow when you try to throw that breaking ball so firm. Not a big guy, but a strong lower part of his body, very important to keep that arm strong for him when you throw that breaking ball like that.
Nava with a 1 ball, 1 strike count. He popped out to Correa in the 1st. His dad, Lance McCullers Sr., Phillies 2nd round pick in '82. Last year was 92, pitching for the Texas Rangers. Never pitched for the Phillies in the big leagues. Nava bounces this one toward first. Marlon Gonzalez has it. 2 down. His dad part of a big trade going to the San Diego Padres that included Sixto Lezcano.
Oh, yes.
One of the all-time great names.
Solid major league player for a lot of years, too.
Yeah. Andrelton will look at a strike. Base hit up the middle in the 2nd and to lead off that 2nd. Go any further as he was part of a double play that ended the 2nd.
So his numbers last 24 games, 388 batting average. Last at bat, back-to-back fastballs from McCullers. Simmons behind in the count 0-2 and eventually worked the full count and got a base hit, this time 1-1 through the 2nd pitch, a curveball.
Breaking pitch out toward left center field. Off the end of the bat, Gomez moves over, puts it away, and the Angels are down in order for the first time tonight. We'll head to the bottom of the 4th, still with no score. action. First Buster Posey, the Giants taking on the Yankees. Then the Rangers take on the defending World Series champs. The action begins at 1 p.m. Pacific on FS1 or watch it live on Fox Sports Go. Matt Shoemaker back to work. He'll face 3, 4, and 5 for the Houston Astros. Altuve, Correa, and Valbuena.
Big inning here for Shoemaker, especially how well McCullers has thrown the baseball so far in this game. Tough part of the order.
Altuve takes his stride. Jose, the second baseman, hit a fly ball to center field. Out more toward right center field. Long run for Trout. Mike was able to get to it. Missed in.
Now Altuve's been very, very good all season long, especially on high pitches. .402 batting average, second best in the majors. You try to elevate a fastball, he is generally right on that and gets the barrel of the bat and hits it hard.
This is pulled to left. Leadoff single. Puts Altuve on board. Now you got to pay attention to him because of his speed.
Just like that. That was that high fastball once again. Stays back on it so well. That's right around just above the belt, between the belt and the letters. Gets that foot down, brings his hands in, barrel the bat on it once again. He's so quick with his hands, even on elevated pitches, how he brings his hands up and still gets the barrel in there to hit it hard.
Carlos Correa struck out looking to end the first. Mentioned earlier about Altuve with 25 stolen bases, been caught 3 times. Good pitch.
Down the way. Nice little slider.
Good arm action too on that slider. Everything looks like a fastball.
And a true slider, that rotation, that baseball, just going to be just a little bit of a break, not the break you'll see from McCullers' curveball. That one, a sharp little short break to it.
Altuve singled the second hit allowed by Shoemaker, the other to Gonzalez in the first. He's 1 for 2 tonight, so that maintains that .500 average against the Angels on the year. Big lead for him at first base.
What I've seen from velocity-wise on the fastball from Shoemaker, he's been 90-91. Still pretty firm fastball, but that last game out, which he threw his first career complete game, he was 93-94 on a number of fastballs.
Correa lifts one out to right field. Playable for Cole. Altuve started the tag and it stopped halfway.
pretty good decision to stop on that one, especially with Cole's arm. It's still not a bad decision by Altuve, just to draw that arm just in case it's a tough hop.
So Valbuena coming up. He grounded out in the second inning. Houston as good as they've been since the end of third week of May, thereabouts, May 23rd. MLB's best 34-16. Just 9-7 in the month of July. Average, team average anyway, 237. They've cooled off a little bit on the offensive side. 268 as a ball club in the month of June. Still a very dangerous team, as you see the June that they had at 18-8. Got to pay attention to Altuve. Three infielders on the right side. Simmons cheating in a couple of steps near the bag at second. I think the extra day helps Shoemaker after throwing that.
It helps a little bit, but that when you have never been to that position before, when you're pitching in the ninth inning in the pitches he had to throw, it's not like he had a 5-0 lead. He had a 1-0 lead, a leadoff double. He had to make some great pitches and very taxing pitches that last time out. So it helps having an extra day, but you also realize that he hasn't been in that position before, so that arm may not be quite as strong. It might be another start down the road where he's back to where he was, but still, he's had a fight. He has that great split finger fastball. He might not have the velo that we saw last game, but he still has that movement on the split finger fastball, and also shown a pretty good slider so far tonight.
His arm's not dragging, and all of a sudden everything's starting to flatten out. Everything still has good bite to it. I still love that first pitch slider to Correa. Was nasty.
That was excellent.
0-2 count on Valbuena. Altuve takes off, and that is fouled back.
And you're sitting at home, you're listening, thinking, well, it was just one complete game. He gets an extra day. Why would that have a carryover effect? Because one, Hou has never been in that position before where he's completing a game. But you add those extra 10, 15 pitches in that ninth inning, and they were as good as the pitches I've seen him throw. So he had everything he had to throw those last 10 to 15 pitches, in which he had a career high 13 strikeouts. The AL Player of the Week for the first time in his career, also with that outstanding effort against the White Sox.
Doesn't go this time. Valbuena fouls it off. Trying to punch one down the left field line, slices it foul. Still an 0-2 count.
Valbuena changes his approach when he's behind in the count. He'll try to hit the ball to left field. He's got pretty good power going the other way. If you make a mistake with a fastball up and away.
Just 48 pitches thrown by Shoemaker. 31 for strikes. Bandy loses it for second, but Altuve caught flat-footed at first, cannot advance.
Fifteen pitches thrown in the first inning for Shoot, 49 on the game. Maybe a shot at a strike him out, throw him out here.
Altuve does it go. Valbuena skies one to shallow right field. Petit drifting out. Calhoun coming in, but he'll give way to Gregorio. 2 outs.
The baseball was hit a high up there, almost by that rafters, it looked like.
So Rasmus will bat with Altuve still at first. A leadoff single for Jose. Colby popped out to Andrelton Simmons in the second. In on the hands, enough. No balls and a strike.
So faced 15 batters so far in this game. Shoe has thrown 11 first pitch strikes, which is pretty much on the norm from 69.2%. Time will throw a first pitch strike. It's third best in Major League Baseball.
But an Altuve leadoff single will do to the starting pitcher. Make you slow things down. You have to. So mix it up with Altuve at first. It's only gone on one pitch. And that was the one that Valbuena eventually fouled back into Bandy.
And the rule of thumb is the best way to slow down a running game is, as a pitcher, hold the baseball. You don't even have to throw over a lot. Just hold the baseball. Make the base stealers stop. Generally, they won't go if you make them stop.
Leaning, and he takes off. Rasmus yanks one out to right field off the end of the bat. Cole is there. We will head to the 5th inning with no score.
Of Angels baseball on Fox Sports West is brought to you by Morongo Casino Resort and Spa. Good times. By El Pollo Loco. Try the new overstuffed quesadillas today. And by Infinity. Visit your local Southern California Infinity retailer for a test drive today.
Beautiful night in Houston. We are scoreless as we start the 5th inning. Game 1 of a 3-game set. And the Angels with a total of 3 hits. Escobar, Calhoun, and Simmons. All 3 with singles, trying to figure out Lance McCullers Jr. has 4 strikeouts and 1 walk. He's coming off a 4th inning in which he retired the sign in order. Ji-Man Choi takes the fastball upstairs to start off the 5th. He'll be followed by Jet Bandy and then Gregorio Petit. Jam shot rolling. 1 ball, 1 strike. Choi went down looking at a breaking ball that was off the plate. The only strikeout that McCullers has picked up. The hitter has watched it go by. The other 3 have been via the swing.
A little more consistent at bats. His last 20 bats, 6 hits, batting average of 300. All hitters will tell you the more at bats they get, the better they see the baseball. And that's been the case for Ji-Man Choi.
Top part of the zone. Evens count of 2 balls, 2 strikes. Play the shift on. G-Man up. A little dribbler up the line and it'll go foul.
You got to keep a note on how many shifts they don't put on.
Yeah, right. Yeah, because that would make news.
Yes. AJ Hinch has done a nice job as the manager for the Astros. Go through a number of charts.
Makes it a little bit easier having a number of talented players that have been drafted over several poor seasons.
Yes, indeed.
They kind of come up to the big leagues at the same time as Joy breaks his bat. How about that? That is a straight up shatter. That's throwing your bat at the ball, trying to keep your at-bat alive.
It's a little Rolling Stone shattered. He's trying to make contact, hit that down the left field line.
Well, you remember that Trip Gibson rung him up on that curveball off the plate, so he figured I better swing. 2-2 again. He goes down, swing on the off speed, 1 away.
Look at these strikeouts tonight. Majority have been on the breaking ball. On the average, throws more curveballs than he does fastballs, even though he does rush it up there mid-90s.
Bandy takes high, grounded into a double play to end the 2nd.
Another shift on. It's time for Jet Bandy.
There's a flare out to right. Works perfectly. A 1-out single. Jets on board for Gregorio Petit.
Even in their minor league affiliates, the Astros will do in batting practice even will work on shifts, the percentage that go that way. Was he able to go through that shift and get a base hit that way? Normally that's great, kind of has a chance for a second baseman to make the play on it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you've got to have pitchers that can execute their pitches. That pitch right over the heart of the plate as opposed to a little more inside. Now if hitters start to inside out a ball like that, we saw Gonzalez, Marwin Gonzalez, get his single in the 1st inning that way. Then you kind of have to negate the shift and kind of reevaluate. We're seeing some teams do that. I don't feel as if the Angels are shifting. Boy, Jason Castro have a bad night.
That almost looked like he was trying to catch a knuckleball almost.
Yeah.
Unless there's another cross-up on that one.
He's not going out there, so how can there be a cross-up with nobody at second base? And that is a straight brain lock.
Yeah, unless he's thinking he's put down, he's looking for he's clearly looking like for a fastball there.
His second pass ball of the night. But I was just going to say, I don't think the Angels are shifting nearly as much now as they were at the beginning of the season.
No, it's going down quite a bit. They're at 7th most in the majors, but it's been a little bit less. And I think it's the input from the pitchers. To be honest with you, all the conversations I've had with whether the guys in the bullpen or in the starting rotation. And that's the thing you like about the coaching staff for the Angels. They're willing to listen and go with what the pitchers feel that their best option is. And where best suited for the infielders to be situated.
That's a pitch off the plate. Gregorio just helped him out. Would have been a 3-0 count. Petito for 1, it grounded out. The third base line, that slow roller that Bueno made a terrific barehanded play on. Angels once again with a man in scoring position. 0 for 4 tonight. Such situations. Well, here it is, fastball, go and get it. 2-2.
Yeah, it's not a straight fastball. It's got some movement. It's some tailing action, sink action. Whether it's this 4-seam fastball, that'll have more of the cut action, and the 2-seam will have sink action on it.
Breaking ball, and it just missed. Full count.
That's a pretty good pitch. He got the benefit of that one. Yeah, that's one of those things when he's in the stretch position, he's leaning forward, and then he comes up, and then he goes back down as far as getting his pitch and getting in the set position.
That's off the plate.
Yeah, we saw it at home. Remember, pitcher was moving his front shoulder forward. Again, I guess what it comes down to for the umpires is he's doing the same thing every time from the stretch position. But he's leaning forward, and then he comes back, and then he leans forward once again.
And I've always known the rule to be, once your foot is on the rubber, once you have pressed the foot on the rubber, and you take that stride out to looking for the sign, you've engaged the rubber. And you can't do anything other than get your sign and come set.
Yeah, right now he's right on the pitching rubber. He's leaning forward. Then he stands straight up, and then he does it again.
How is that not a balk?
It always has been.
Right. If you're going to do all those moves, they should be doing it off the rubber. First and second, 1 out. Escobar bounces one over to first. Gonzalez fires to Correa for 1. McCullers covering. And just like that, the Angels ground into another double play. And we'll head to the bottom of the 5th scoreless.
Carlos Cam replay. You know, Escobar hits that right to first base, but Gonzalez, we talked about him being a very good defender at middle infielder playing first. Well, that's that hands and throw he made to be able to complete a very difficult 3-6-1 double play. Very difficult always to turn that as a pitcher getting there, but it's all about that quick throw by Gonzalez at first base. He's played a lot of middle infield. He's got quick hands, and that was a perfect throw to be able to complete that double play.
Nice play by McCullers to cover first base on that as well.
You know, early in the season we showed one where Weaver was covering first base. It's not an easy thing to do to be able to get a firm throw from a middle infielder at second base on the run.
Angry swing by Carlos Gomez to lead off the bottom of the 5th inning. He was hit by a pitch in the second on a 3-0 count. Takes a strike. It's 0-2.
Staying all speed against, mentioned earlier what his batting average is versus all speed, 170.
Great swing. Now with bounce foul.
Boy, you keep thinking 0-2. Let me try to sneak a fastball by him, especially with another off-speed splitter there from Shoemaker. But I still say you expand the zone, even think in terms of trying to bounce a pitch now.
Down goes Gomez, one away, 3rd strikeout for Shoemaker.
Well, I love what he did there. Went right back to his split finger fastball to get a swing and miss. See that ball, bottom drops out. Talked about that straight downward action on a split, especially to a right-handed batter. Excellent location.
Got 2 guys tonight that will rack up some strikeouts. There's Charles Nagy looking on Shoemaker. He's picked up his 3rd. McCullers has 5 on the night. And combined on the season, these 2 guys have racked up 198 strikeouts in 177 plus innings. Shoemaker with a 2.24 ERA since May 21st. That's through tonight. A guy that had an ERA at one point of 8.49.
He's unbelievable.
Drop it
turnaround.
down. This one's out toward center field. Trout racing back, and he can't get it. One hops to fence. It's up on Towles Hill. Preston Tucker headed to 3rd, and he is in there with a 1-out triple.
Boy, he almost got to that one. Went down and got that split finger fastball this time and drove it very well to center just by the glove of Trout. And backed up well by Cole Calhoun to make sure that wasn't going to be an inside the park home run.
Second time tonight, the Astros have had a man reach scoring position. The other was Carlos Gomez on the pickoff attempt by Shoemaker in the 2nd inning. So Tucker over at 3rd base, a scoreless tie here in the 5th, 1 out, and Jason Castro coming up. Tucker talking things over with Gary Pettis, a 3rd base coach. Midfield will play in. Not surprising.
The way McCullers is throwing the baseball, you have to.
Shoemaker's going to work from the full windup. 0-1 count. Castro struck out in the third.
Once again, ahead of the count allows him to expand the strike zone. Shoemaker has been very good as far as getting strikeouts. Could use one now. He struck out Castro his first at bat.
Down and in. Nice block by Jet Bandy. First career triple for Preston Tucker. Had it in 98 games last year, this being his 34th this season.
Still surprised though with one out for Shoe to go from the full windup.
Castro lines one into right field. And with the infield in, it'll bring in a run, and Houston takes a 1-0 lead.
Both hits in a row by the Astros were pitches on the outer part of the plate and down. They went down and got that one. Not hit hard by Castro, but with the infield in, a base hit. Very similar location to Tucker hit his baseball. Now you got Springer up, who's been up twice now, swinging at the first pitch.
Springer swinging first pitch. Cuts through it. He's 0 for 2. He's popped out to second and popped out to first. A triple followed by a single. Castro picks up his 23rd RBI. The Astros with a 1-0 lead here in the fifth. Just 65 pitches thrown by Shoemaker. Good percentage of it for strikes, over 40. Three strikeouts, no walks. Now 4 hits allowed. Good off-speed pitch. 1-2.
Still has a real good feel for that pitch.
Quick pitching a little bit.
Sneak that one
Slice there.
upstairs.
Both teams now with 4 hits. Halos 0 for 5 with men in scoring position. Got a par for the course for Matt Shoemaker's start. The Angels have the ability to score runs for him. At least through 5. Down goes Springer. 2 outs.
That was a nasty split to get a swing and miss there from Shoemaker. Yeah, you're right. When we talked about that in the opening, as you see this split, able to get a swing and miss, down and in. Well, we talked about in the opening how well the offense has really swung the bat and home in that 6-game win streak. 5 of the 6 games with 7 or more runs scored, but the one game they didn't score a lot was just the game where Shoemaker with 1 run. He was able to make that stand up though with a 1-0 shutout.
A good start was certainly cooled down some hot hitting. McCullers has done that tonight. Started in the first inning. The Angels out on the ropes trying to strike early. Second and third and nobody out. That was a young pitcher. Obviously got into 22 starts last year. Grown up around the game. He built some confidence off of that. No damage. Struck out Trout twice tonight. Both in RBI situations. He's kept it rolling through 5. Now trying to keep it a 1-0 deficit. A swing and a miss. Good off speed pitch. And Gonzalez maybe took the right hand. The bottom hand.
That was a good slow breaking ball.
Gonzalez 1 for 2. Single in the first. Was called out. Ball hit him as he tried to bunt his way on. Almost got that fastball to run back, catch the inside corner.
That was real close. Just a little bit off the inside corner.
Halos in the 6th. Have Calhoun, Trout, and Pujols due up.
Hit that one twice.
Yeah.
So he got himself out by bunting and hitting himself going down the line. This time he hit the baseball twice with that.
Guy you want to get without Tuve on deck. Halos trying to figure out the Astros. 1-8 on the season against the Astros. 0-3 here. Count evens up now. Seattle beat Toronto today 2-1. In Toronto, Kansas City leading Texas. Game in the 6th inning. Oakland hosting Tampa Bay. We'll get started here soon. Here it's 1-0 Stros. Back-to-back hits with one out here in the 5th.
Well out in front of that all-speed pitch once again.
A little dribble on third base side goes foul. That's that walk of a pitcher where you're sitting there going, what do I throw now? I've thrown everything, tried everything. Just getting a piece of it.
Yeah, he's got him out in front on a lot of swings. Just missed early in the sequence. The 2 strikes on the fastball in. The 8th pitch of the at-bat. I still try that split finger fastball going down and away. You can think in terms of bouncing it. Because when you throw enough pitches, you're more apt to make a mistake if you try to sneak a fastball in.
G-Man Joy will take it himself. We are through 5, but the Astros strike for a run. It's 1-0 Houston as we head to the 6th.
Equals greater coverage of baseball. Giants taking on the Yankees. That's Madison Bumgarner on the mound, tied at 2 in the bottom of the 8th. The Mets with the lead against Miami, 3-2, and the Dodgers and Cardinals are tied up at 2. That battle for that wild card position with the Dodgers lead that. And now let's take a look at our game break as we go to Baltimore. Mark Trumbo and Trevor Bauer hanging breaking ball upstairs. And you know what Trumbo does on high pitches. He hits it out a long way, number 29 the season for Mark Trumbo. Is Baltimore leading Cleveland Indians 5-1 in the 9th.
Here it's 1-0 Houston. Top of the 6th inning. 2, 3, and 4. Calhoun, Trout, and Pujols to try to figure out Lance McCullers Jr.'s 5 strikeouts, 2 walks, 4 hits allowed. Cole tonight, 1 for 1, a single and a walk. Twice has been stranded in scoring position.
He's tracked the ball pretty well, even though coming into the game is 2 for 12 in his career versus McCullers. But both at bats, he's tracked it well.
Broken bat rolling to the right side. That's Altuve. 1 down.
In my Hyundai key to this game, the one that got away. Well, twice now, Trout has come to the plate, and McCullers has thrown him a first pitch fastball. Trout usually very patient. This is that one time. If he's throwing a first pitch fastball, Trout will be swinging. He's had a tough time dealing with that curveball from McCullers tonight. So see a fastball, drive a fastball.
Gets a breaking ball and he fouls it off.
Well, he was hacking, and he doesn't swing in a breaking ball first pitch off, but he was guessing along with that fastball.
Fastball in tight.
Trout's batting average behind in the count, very good at 343. Has been tested a couple of times in this game by McCullers. Behind the count, finished him off with curveballs. 33 points higher than any other hitter as far as batting average or behind in the count.
And Trout strikes out for the 3rd time tonight. 2 down. This copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of the Los Angeles Angels. It may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of Angels Baseball LP.
Well, you talk about that spin rate on his curveball. It's been excellent tonight, especially against Trout.
Albert gets booed as he usually does here in this ballpark. By the way, that's the first game of the season that Trout has struck out 3 times. Chopper left side. Correa backs up on it. Will stumble a little bit. And a shutdown 1-2-3 inning for McCullers. Well, to the bottom of the 6th, 1-0 Houston. Up by the score of 1-0, and pretty good pitching matchup as we expected between Shoemaker and Lance McCullers tonight.
Yeah, both have thrown the ball very well. Pitch counts very manageable. 6 punch outs for McCullers, 4 for Shoe. It's that triple by Tucker, and then the base hit with the infield in by Castro, the difference in this game.
Altuve lofts one out to center. Trout has to come in on it. 1 down. Altuve now 1 for 3.
Well, the mindset right now as a starting pitcher, when you're facing a guy who's throwing the ball that well, and you've had a lot of games where you haven't got a ton of run support, all you're thinking of is, I got to find a way to get into that 7th and 8th, or potentially even, hopefully, to the 9th inning, but at least the 8th inning. That's my best shot to get some runs. When you got a guy locked in, he's a young pitcher, they're always going to be concerned about pitch counts. Go down to the bullpen, although the Astros bullpen has been better this year. You still feel more confident you're going to get a run or two if you can somehow fight your way into that 8th inning as a starting pitcher.
First pitch a strike on the outside part of the plate to Carlos Correa. Astros shortstop 0 for 2. Struck out looking in the first at a fly ball to right in the 4th. We touched on it. It's not as if the Angels haven't had opportunities against McCullers. The first one being the big one in the first, as Escobar makes a nice play to the backhand, 2 down. They also had a chance in the 3rd and the 5th.
And here's what's left in the tank, presented by 76. Carlos Nagy's bullpen has been much, much better of late. Throws an 2/3 straight scoreless innings, 20 punch out. Gillis Garrett, 21 walk this year, 108 batters faced. The bullpen has been better. Starting pitching has been better for Charlie Nagy. And Shoemaker has been very good as far as first pitch strike. He's faced 22 batters so far. This will be the 23rd. 18 of them first pitch strikes.
Balbuena again trying to bunt.
He is determined to bunt one down that 3rd base line.
Yeah.
And with 2 outs, I don't move in on that one if I'm Escobar. Not that you want to give up a hit, but with 2 outs, you always think it's a hitter. You're looking and trying for extra base swing.
Evens up the count. Shoemaker's had 1-2-3 inning. That was the 3rd. That's the other thing that's been impressive for Shoe is he's gotten quick outs as the season has progressed. As Balbuena hooks it foul, 1 and 2, and so it has limited the amount of pitches he's thrown in games. Here's a guy that 5th, 6th inning already up there, throwing everything in the kitchen sink, trying to fool guys. And he had to come out of games. Now he's working deeper into ball games on a consistent basis.
And he has. And Mike Scioscia early on, especially with Shoemaker's, always felt around that 90-95 pitch spot for Shoe. He feels his stuff kind of goes away a little bit, but now he's starting to show some more trust in Shoemaker going a little bit deeper than that. Reason why you're seeing, you mentioned that, you get some quick outs, but when he needs to get that strikeout, that's when he has a little bit left in the tank.
Two. Balbuena checked his swing. Full count. Colby Rasmus on deck. A 1-out triple by Preston Tucker. And with the infield drawn in, Castro with an RBI single to right in the 5th. He'll be running this ball game. Payoff pitch. Just got a piece of it. 85 pitches for Shoemaker. Halos in the 7th have Nava, Simmons, and Choi coming up. Valbuena lifts one out towards center. Trout underneath it. We will head to the 7th inning with the Angels down 1-0. This telecast of Angels baseball on Fox Sports West is brought to you by Subaru, making the world a better place. That's why they created Subaru Loves to Care, Subaru's commitment to a healthier community. Angels down 1-0, top of the 7th, opening game of the 3-game set against the Astros. Lance McCullers, 6 strikeouts, 2 walks. He's limited the Angels to 4 hits, but then again, Shoemaker's done the same to the Houston Astros. They've just made 2 of theirs count. That was at the bottom of the 5th inning. So see if Daniel Nava can get things started for the Angels here in the 7th. Nava's 0 for 2 with a pop-up to short and a ground ball to first. Got the top part of the strike zone. Oh, what count? 3 infielders on the right. Valbuena, the lone infielder, on the left side, and the outfield shading Nava the opposite way. Check swing. He went around. Scott Berry, the third base umpire, rings it up, 1 away.
Close. I wonder if he did indeed cross the plate on that break by 2 fastballs upstairs. Yep. Close enough where that view, especially for an umpire at that angle, to be able to call that one a swing.
Boy, Andrelton Simmons, big time back leg swing there, fouls it back. Andrelton 1 for 2. He had a single in the first inning. Fly ball to center in the 4th.
He's got that good feel for his curveball tonight.
Chopper to short again. 2 down. Hey, join us Thursday, July 28th. Angels take on the Red Sox at 7:05. Fans in attendance will receive a box of Girl Scout cookies while supplies last as part of Girl Scout Cookie Day at the Big A. Well, that makes sense. Go to angels.com/Girl Scouts for more information. Thin Mints.
Yes. Yeah, I do like those.
What about the what's the caramel one with the chocolate and the coconut? What was it called?
I know you're. Yeah, they're good.
Samoas.
Too. Yes.
Bouncer to second. The colors making it look easy. Stretch time at Houston. 1-0 Astros.
Pitching probables. The Weave on the mound. Jerry Weaver, 8-7, 5.02 ERA going against Colin McHugh. 6-6, 4.25. Been very good in his last 6 starts. 2.41. Weavers has been dealing. Yeah, very good 7 solid innings against the White Sox this last time out.
Matt Shoemaker has allowed 4 hits. He has struck out 4, walked nobody. He's had 1 hit batted. That was Carlos Gomez back in the second. He'll face Rasmus Gomez and Turner in the Astros half of the 7th. Rasmus 0 for 2. He went around. He's now mired in 0 for 23.
.24 batters faced, 20 first pitch strikes. Shoemaker continues that upward swing as far as first pitch strike percentage. It's 3rd best at 69.2, over 80% tonight as far as first pitch strikes. Again, it's quality first pitch strikes too. Hitting his spots.
Down goes Rasmus for out number 1. Strikeout number 5. Brings up Gomez.
Another real good split finger fastball. Bottoms dropped right out of that pitch. Starts at the knees, ends up in the dirt. That's that downward action on the split. We've seen that tumbling, sinking type action going away from a left-handed batter, but that was a perfect one straight down on the split from Hou.
Gomez hit by a pitch and a strikeout. Tries to bunt his way on it. Shoemaker has stumbled off the mound. Now it goes an infield base hit. So Gomez on board with one away.
And with Gomez on board, now it's time for the AT&T high-speed replay. Tucker had a fastball. Actually, a split finger fastball going down and away. Pretty good location, but he drives that one just by the glove of Mike Trout and turns on the afterburner to pick up his first triple of the season.
So Tucker comes up 1 for 2. First big league triple in the 5th inning. Also scored the only run of the game. Gomez with 9 stolen bases has been caught twice. Gomez takes off, a swing and a miss, to throw down to second on the shortstop side. Gets by Simmons into center. And a great play by Andrelton Simmons, keeping the tag on Gomez to make him think he had the ball.
Exactly right there. That way he couldn't get up and try to run and try to advance. He could have easily done so if he'd have read that baseball into the outfield. The one hop throw, try to scoop it, and he keeps that glove right on to give the impression that the baseball's still there. We've seen that so often where runners try to stay connected with the base. Not once did Simmons have that baseball. We talk about those intangibles he has, off the charts.
Tenth stolen base now for Gomez. 1 ball, 1 strike on Tucker. Pulls this one down the line. Choi's got it. He'll take it himself. 2 down. Nice play by G-Man.
And he stayed down on that baseball. That baseball stayed low. Troy with a nice play.
They're going to call that a balk. They're going to call that a balk, and they're going to call it a balk because Yunel Escobar wasn't in a position to pick off at third base. And that Shoemaker just threw the ball to avoid the balk call. Now the question is, did he step off? If he stepped off, he doesn't have to throw, right?
No, he doesn't have to throw.
Right. So it's not necessarily a balk.
I think that's what they're going to make sure they get that conversation about.
So if you make the move like you're pitching and you go to third base, then you got to throw it over. If he stepped off, it's not a balk.
Escobar well off the base, and he steps off.
Yeah, he sure did. You know what? It's awfully close because that left foot's got to come off the rubber as well. They are putting him back.
That's a pretty good reaction for Escobar to catch that throw. And that's part of the reason I never went through the full windup with a man on third. I always was much more comfortable out of the stretch. The only thing is that front foot for Shoemaker is never engaged with the rubber, so he steps back with the right foot.
Yeah, but isn't that part of, even though it's not, because it's on the front side of it, I always thought, then again, there's a lot of stuff that they don't call anymore that's still in the rule book.
Again, part of it is deceiving the base runner. Well, that's pretty much deceiving the
There's no doubt
runner.
about it. I thought when you stepped off, you had to completely step off the rubber. And that meant with both feet.
Yeah, exactly. Mike
Or in
Scioscia,
Texas, a two-step.
Credit Mike Scioscia, he was quick to get run out there right away because
Yeah.
he sees that in the dugout.
One ball, one strike on Castro, 1 for 2.
Good life on that fastball, 91. Pitch count up to 98. Shoemaker. Get through this inning, more than likely it would be his last inning. Trying to fight through this one, give himself a chance to pick up a W if the offense can score some runs in the top of the 8th.
One, two on the way.
That's a good catch by Andy.
Wow.
You talk about quick reactions. You're not anticipating that fastball to go there, that's for sure. Even though he set up a high target, that's well off the plate. And pitch number 100 for Shoemaker. His mind has to be his best. Get through this inning. Keep it 1-0 deficit.
Down low, gets away. Gomez does not come down the line. Thought about it. Top of the order, and Springer on deck. Here's a 3-2. And he walked him. First walk of the night for Matt Shoemaker. Puts a couple of men on. And with Springer coming to the plate, Joe Smith is getting ready for the Angels. And sure enough, at 101 pitches, Mike Scioscia is going to go to Joe. And I tell you what, Shoemaker throwing the ball well against Springer, 0 for 3.
Yeah, exactly.
Strikeout.
Got a couple, first 2 at bats, quick outs against him.
So we have ourselves the first pitching change of the night. He comes to the bottom of the 7th with 2 outs and 2 on. Houston up 1-0. The 7th, 2 outs, runners at the corners. Matt Shoemaker done after 6 2/3, 5 strikeouts, just issued his one and only walk. He's allowed 1 run, it's earned. And he'll depend on Joe Smith to get the 3rd and final out here and keep it a 1-0 deficit. As it's our in and out, who's in, who's out. Joe now pitching in his 34th game, 1-4 marker, 4.36 ERA, 33 innings. He's allowed 33 hits, struck out 24 and walked 13. Smith pitched in Wednesday's game. Ended up going 1 inning with all zeros. He's going to face the right fielder George Springer. He's popped out twice and struck out his last time up. Slider, and that's pulled to left, a base hit. Gomez comes in to score, and the Astros lead is 2-0.
He's been aggressive swinging at the first pitch this entire game. This time he got a breaking ball, was out over the plate. He hooked it right in between short and third. Stayed back on that one well, inner half of the plate.
So 2nd and 3rd now, or pardon me, 1st and 2nd, 2 outs. And here's Marwin Gonzalez. Springer picks up his 56th run batted in. Jason Castro now at second base. Gonzalez bounces it foul. Broken bat, 1 hopper to Petit. And that'll do it for the Astros. Although they add a run, we'll head to the 8th. Angels now trail at 2-0.
To get some runs for Matt Shoemaker, was just taken out of the ball game. Halos down 2-0 as we head to the top of the 8th inning. Welcome back, everyone. Ken French with you. Don't forget, following this one is Angels Live, presented by your SoCal Mazda dealers. Join myself and Jose Mota for all the interviews and highlights. Then after the post-game show, it's a brand new edition of Angels Weekly. We got some great stories for you, including Dick Enberg gives us some of his favorite memories of the Angels. And Alex Curry will talk with Torrey Hunter about his son being drafted by the Halos in the 23rd round. That and much more on Angels Weekly following the post-game show. But right now, listen to Pekka back upstairs to Victor and Mark. Guys.
Thanks a lot, Frenchie. As we start the 8th inning, it's 2-0 now Houston, with Lance McCullers back out on the mound. He's retired the last 7 in a row, and he's going to face 8, 9, and 1.
Well, that breaking ball, that spin rate, we were talking about it in between innings. The spin rate on his breaking ball is the best he's had this entire season. It's been very, very effective for him.
A tapper foul. 0-2 count. Jet 1 for 2. He had a single in the 5th inning.
Most he has pitched this year, though, in a game of 7 innings. He's into the 8th inning right now. A very manageable pitch count.
Bandy goes down swinging for out number 1.
And that's that tight curveball once again. Threw 3 breaking balls to Bandy at that at bat.
Petit fouls this one back.
Nice play right below us. Great opportunity to take a picture right there.
Oh, 2. McCullers has 1 game in which he has gone the distance. That was last year against Baltimore here. To 107 pitches against the Orioles.
He got a little quick on that breaking ball, and that's why that curveball was elevated. Started drifting forward. He hasn't done that a whole lot at all. He had that chance in the 1st inning, first and third, then the 2nd and 3rd with no outs. He got the big strikeout against Trout. He got through that inning with no damage.
3rd inning, same thing. A man at 2nd struck out Trout. And the Angels at 1st and 2nd with 1 out of the 5th. Double play by Yunel Escobar. MLB.TV Premium, the #1 live streaming sports service, delivers everything you've come to expect and more. Watch every out-of-market game live in HD on over 400 supported devices. Includes a free subscription to AppBat Premium, the #1 app for live baseball. Blackout and other restrictions apply. Go to MLB.TV for details. Top of the order now, Yunel Escobar, 1 for 3.
Well, all of a sudden you're seeing McCullers going first pitch curveball, and he's able to throw it for a strike. Early on, a lot of first pitch fastballs.
Flared foul. No balls, 2 strikes.
Well, even though it's a long season and those days off for the guys playing every day, it's welcome. But when you're swinging the bats as well as they did at home, they probably didn't want that off day. And you could see, especially when you're facing a tough pitcher like McCullers tonight, with that breaking ball he's had.
Fouled off the ankle. Astros have Gregerson getting ready to bullpen. One, 2. Check swing. Did not go. And McCullers strikes out the side. We head to the bottom of the 8th, 2-0 Houston.
Brought to you by Arco, 8th inning. That's McCullers, who's already been throwing the ball very well. Strikes out Bandy on a breaking ball, strikes out Petit on a high breaking ball, and then finishes off the 8th inning with a changeup to get a swing and miss against Escobar. 10 punch-outs, including striking out the side in the 8th inning for Lance McCullers.
He's got the sweatshirt on, so his night will come to an end after 8 solid innings. 105 pitches with the 10 strikeouts.
If you're the Angels, you're glad he's got that sweatshirt on.
Yeah, right.
You want him to go into that clubhouse now.
JC Ramirez takes over on the mound for the Angels, facing Jose Altuve. Jose fouls off the first one. Ramirez taking over for Joe Smith, who went a third of an inning, gave up a hit. Nothing else. Also gave up Matt Shoemaker's run. Ramirez 1-0. 12 games now with the Angels, 2.25 ERA. Altuve 1 for 3. He singled back in the 4th. He'll be followed by Correa and then Valbuena.
Well, we talked about the pitches that Altuve hits. Well, pretty much everything. You see those pitches up in the upper part of the strike zone, inner half of the plate, middle away. The only pitch really that's going to be the most consistent one to get him out is that down and away breaking ball, slider, or split finger fastball if you can hit that spot out there. It's exactly where Ramirez is trying to attack.
Up the middle, Petit to the backhand, gets rid of it quickly, and Altuve legs it out for an infield base hit. Nice stretch by G-Man Choi to make it interesting.
And Petit did about everything you could to be able to get him out. Once that got by Ramirez, that was going to be a base hit. Very solid play by Gregorio Petit, though, and a great stretch by Choi. Right off the ground up the middle. Quickly, the transfer and throw. Solid throw. But Altuve just runs too well. And it reminds you of Kirby Puckett was like that too. If he hit the ball on the ground, if you got by the pitcher, especially over that mound, it was going to be a hit. And especially with that AstroTurf they had at the Metrodome.
Yeah, right. Altuve takes off to throw down to second base. A good one, and they got him. Nice throw by Jet Bandy, 1 down.
Think about Bandy coming in this game, has thrown out 41% of would-be base hits. What a perfect throw Pretty good jump also. Quick on the transfer, perfect throw. Bandy, how quick that release was. A good tag by Petit.
Well, you look at a guy like Jet Bandy and the size that he possesses behind the plate. You think, oh, slow-footed. Going to take him a while to get rid of a baseball. But he's got quick feet, quick release. Not only that, he's got something on his throws, too.
Altuve with 25 stolen bases, only caught 3 times coming in a game. Now the 4th time this season with a perfect throw from Jet Bandy.
2-1 count of Correa. Astros shortstop's 0 for 3 with a strikeout, a fly to right, and a ground out. Final lineup: Matt Shoemaker, 6 2/3, 2 runs, both earned, 5 hits, 5 strikeouts, 1 walk. The 7th start this season for Shoe. With 6 or more innings, 2 or fewer runs allowed, with no win. It's most in the American League. Just got a piece of it, keeps his at-bat alive.
Pretty good indication how quick that movement is on the fastball from JC Ramirez. The ball was well out of the strike zone, but you have to commit to that fastball to try to make good contact with movement like that off the end of the bat.
Another 3-2, and he got him. 2 down.
It's almost like a slider or cut fastball, that movement on his 95-mile-an-hour fastball. And one thing you notice with the catchers now with Ramirez, he has so much movement on his pitches. They pretty much sit right in the middle of the plate, trust movement on his fastball. When he tries to paint corners, it's never going to stay on that spot. It's easy for an umpire to call it a ball. See, fastball away, barely moves at all.
Valbuena's 0 for 3. No runs, 4 hits, an error, 4 left on for the Angels, 2 runs, 7 hits, 6 left on for Houston. Solo runs the 5th and 7th for the Astros. 3-0. Rasmus on deck. 4-pitch walk. Put a man on for Colby Rasmus. Colby 0 for 3 tonight. 0 for his last 24 now. You go left-handed batter up. You probably want Choi behind the runner. Try to hold him. That's 5 out of the zone. Bandy will go out. Obligatory conversation. 1-1. 2 balls, 1 strike. Two balls, 2 strikes. Halos in the 9th have Calhoun, Trout, and Pujols coming up. The Bears trying to keep it 2-0. Broken back. Pop it down the line, and Hicks foul.
Calder's still looking on. What an effort by him. 10 punch outs and 8 shutout innings. His 4 hits allowed.
Rasmus goes down looking, and we will head to the 9th. Halos down 2-0. They'll send out 2, 3, and 4. Looks like McCullers might be coming back out. Series against Houston, and the Astros with a 2-0 lead. Lance McCullers Jr. is back out on the mound. He has 1 complete game, but has never thrown a shutout. And he's got Calhoun, Trout, and Pujols ahead of him. See if he can do it. 105 pitches. The Astros do have action in their bullpen now, just in case. 10 strikeouts, 2 walks. McCullers coming off an inning in which he struck out the side. He's retired 10 straight. Cole, see Cole's reaction, that pitch off the plate.
I think when it goes for McCullers here, any base runner at all, he'll be out of the game. Certainly still good life on his fastball.
One outside. 2 balls, 1 strike. Most pitches thrown in the game this year by McCullers, 108. He's done that twice. Should be 5th the last time. Three and one.
Well, you would think right now McCullers is going to challenge Cole with a fastball. If Cole could do some damage.
Well, a few times it seemed like to slow things down on the breaking ball.
He tried to aim that one.
And he walked him. Leadoff walk will bring up the tying run, and Mike Trout.
It's a tough call now for AJ. He's telling Castro to go out and talk to him here. He struck out Trout 3 times already in this game. But Trout does represent the tying run right here at the plate.
Will Harris getting ready. Nine saves on the season for Harris.
If Trout would have had any swings against him at all tonight, there's no doubt AJ Hinch would have went to the bullpen. Just trusting McCullers against Trout because of what he's done so far. But Trout maybe looking first pitch fastball.
It's a breaking ball, takes it for a strike. First time this year, Trout has struck out 3 times in a game. He's got Calhoun over at first base. So good velocity on the fastball at 95 on the last one.
It's almost like he was showing him a fastball to come back to a breaking ball. And then when you get to that pitch count where you haven't been there before, uncharted territory, you can hang that breaking ball, and that's what Trout's looking for here.
Trout now ahead of the count at 2-1.
And Trout's batting average coming in this game was .354 versus breaking balls. He's had a tough time with it tonight.
3-1.
That's a pitch right there where you see the pitcher forcing and muscling up on a pitch. Didn't want to make a mistake. Muscled up, 93-mile-an-hour fastball. Velocity there, straightened out and well off the outside corner.
Pujols on deck. Three-1 now. Trout takes a strike. Borderline pitch catches the outside corner. Full count now.
Well, even though if you walk him on a breaking ball in the dirt, you put the tying run at first, I think he's got to go with his breaking ball here, 3-2.
It's been the pitch for him the entire night, hasn't it? Castro sets up like he's getting one. He fouls this one back into the chest.
You know what?
He got in the hand of Castro.
Trout had a great swing at that one also. That was a curveball, but it was right middle and down the zone where Trout does damage. Fouled it straight back off the hand. See right there the hand and wrist. Jason Castro. Well, Trout just pulled off. He would love to get that pitch again. I think this is a conversation right now. Let's go break a ball a little bit further off the plate. I think that spun a little bit backwards on him. It went backed up, the curveball, instead of going down and away. He's mixed in an occasional changeup. It looked like originally Castro put down the changeup sign and then came back to the curveball.
Down 2. Calhoun worked a leadoff walk. Now Trout with a full count. Breaking ball, and he walked up. Back-to-back walks to start the 9th. Here comes A.J. Hinch, bringing the hook with him. Will Harris will enter this ball game, looking for his 10th save.
And as a starting pitcher, you cannot be upset at this point. Your manager gave you an opportunity. With 2 walks into this, he has no choice to go down to the bullpen.
The colors will depart. A nice round of applause on a good night here. Good crowd. The opening game of the series. He departs leading it 2-0, but he also departs with a couple of men on base. Nothing, and Lance McCullers given the opportunity to go out there to try to complete the ball game. He ends up walking Calhoun and Trout, so the tying run on base. And with nobody out, Will Harris comes into the ball game. See McCullers total live, but Harris has thrown the ball well. 1-1, a 1.80 ERA. This will be a 41st game. 9 saves on the season, 40 innings, 41 strikeouts.
His fastball is 91 to 95, but a very good curveball himself.
Albert will bat with Calhoun at second and Trout at first. Pujols 2 for 6 in his career against Harris. Nava on deck. First one outside.
.25 RBI in his last 21 games for Albert Pujols.
Albert's 0 for 3 tonight. Last time up, a ground ball to short. Outfield straight around, the infield on the shift to pull. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Look, he can hit one, especially he's going to try to stay away against. He can hit one the right center field. He'll tie the game up. Split the alley.
One off the plate. 2 balls, 1 strike. That's pretty much where Harris is going to live. Texas lost tonight in the opening game of their series against the Kansas City Royals up at Kauffman. 3-1 the final. Seattle defeated Toronto 2-1 tonight. Tampa and Oakland underway. And the 3rd scoreless. Here it's 2-0 Houston in the 9th. Albert takes just low and away. 3-1. Borderline pitch. Pujols skies one out to right. Playable for Springer. Chase what would have been ball 4. Calhoun not going anywhere. 1 out.
And very difficult to advance on these outfielders.
That pitch way off the plate.
Yeah, we got a little aggressive on that one. Had some late cut action on the fastball.
So 1 out, and it's Nava at the plate. Daniel 1 for 2 in his career against Harris. Tonight he's 0 for 3. A pop up, a ground out, and a strikeout. Astros came into play tonight, 3.5 back of the Rangers. The Angels 11.5 back in 4th place.
They've been so good during the win streak as far as runners in scoring position. 386, but 0 for 6 tonight.
On the corner.
Well, he's certainly staying away. Both Nava, and he certainly did to Pujols, making hitter hit it the big part of the yard, but it's not necessarily big if you stay back and drive it to left field in this ballpark.
Breaking pitch back up the middle. Correa dives, knocks it down, feeds Altuve for 1. The relay back, not in time. What a play by Carlos Correa to keep the ball on the infield. And the Angels now down to the last out.
Remember when we had that series back in here in June where Correa and Simmons were putting on a clinic as far as fielding that shortstop position? Well, that's an excellent play. That's destined to be up the middle. That's by me. Knocks it down and flips it over to Altuve, who tried to complete a 6-4-3 double play, the all-important force out at second.
Todd Cunningham will pinch run now at first base. And it's Andrelton Simmons coming to the plate. Andrelton 1 for 3. Single back in the second. First pitch swing and base hit the left. Calhoun will score. Cunningham to second. It's a 2-1 Astros lead as Andrelton picks up his 20th RBI.
Aggressive on that one, anticipating a fastball. Got that one up in middle part of the strike zone. And another big base hit for Simmons.
Now the tying run at second base. Choi 0 for 3. Couple of strikeouts and a ground out. Outfield playing shallow. Choi takes a strike. First plate appearance for Choi in his career against Harris. The 1-1. Down low. 2 balls, 1 strike.
Good hitters count now for Troy.
Cunningham at second, tying run. Correa shading Choi up the middle. Big hole on the left side. 2-1 pitch. Caught the top part of the strike zone. Evens the count. G-Man didn't like it, but it caught the zone according to Fox Tracks. Halos down to the last strike. 2-1 Houston. 2 outs, 2 on. Foul back. Another 2-2. Choi goes down swinging. Castro will apply the tag, and the Angels drop the opener of this 3-game set by the final of 2-1.
It came down to that breaking ball throughout for Castro pitching. It started with McCullers, finishes up with Harris. Big breaking ball to Getty, swing and miss. The story of the night, though, Lance McCullers Jr. was excellent in his 8+ innings. A couple walks there in the 9th. Just enough offense to go along with that great pitching. Springer got that big base hit himself. Tucker with a triple, ended up scoring on a base hit by Castro. And that was enough for the Astros to win game 1 here, as they won 9 in a row now versus the Angels.
McCullers picks up the win. Shoemaker takes the loss, and Harris notches the save as the Astros take game 1 by the final of 2-1. Stick around. Angels Live postgame is coming up next.